How do too big to fail banks influence global politics? Imagine a bank so large that if it suddenly collapsed, the whole world's economy could shake. That's what we call a too big to fail bank. These giants are not just big in size but deeply connected to the global financial system. Their influence goes beyond just banking. It reaches into the heart of world politics. When these banks face trouble, governments often step in to save them. This intervention gives these banks a kind of power that can shape policies and international relations. These banks are so intertwined with the economy that their failure could cause widespread job losses, drop in investments, and economic downturns worldwide. To prevent this chaos, governments often provide bailouts or change regulations to keep these banks afloat. But this creates a tricky situation. It means these banks might take bigger risks because they expect governments to rescue them if things go wrong. This is called moral hazard, and it can distort the natural balance of risk and reward in capitalism. The influence of these banks on politics is quite significant. They spend large sums on lobbying to influence lawmakers and regulators. This means they can shape rules that favor their interests, sometimes making regulations weaker or more lenient. This can slow down efforts to reduce their size or limit their risks. Governments also depend on these banks to keep the economy stable. So, they often listen to their concerns when making decisions about monetary policy or financial rules. This gives the banks indirect influence over national economic strategies. Because these banks operate internationally, their health can impact global financial markets and diplomatic relations. Countries work together to manage the risks these banks pose, which can influence international standards and cooperation. Having a too big to fail bank nearby can also affect political stability. If a big bank collapses, it could trigger a financial crisis that leads to unemployment and social unrest. Governments tend to protect these banks to avoid chaos, sometimes at the expense of smaller competitors or consumers. In the end, the power of these banks in global politics comes from their economic importance and their ability to influence policies through lobbying and government support. While capitalism promotes competition and risk-taking, these banks often benefit from government guarantees. This can reduce the incentives for prudent risk management and create a tension between economic stability and fair competition. Efforts to reduce their risks include requiring larger capital reserves, stricter supervision, and plans for how to handle a bank failure without causing a crisis. But because of their political influence, these reforms often face delays or weakenings. So, these banks shape global politics by their size, their role in the economy, and their ability to sway policies that keep them safe and powerful. This influence can sometimes challenge the core ideas of capitalism, but also shows how interconnected the financial system and politics really are.